Good afternoon, ma'am.
What is the topic that we'll be taking up today? It is blood clotting. You can see on the screen as well. I hope I'm audible. What are we going to study today?
Blood clotting.
Blood
Blood
clotting.
clotting.
Yes, Beta, we'll be studying about blood clotting. It's a very, very complicating process. It's not an easy process. There are a lot of factors involved in this. So we'll be trying to go up to a certain level where we can understand these things. But first, just read there are three steps. First, Beta, I'll give you the outline of the steps and then I'll go to the details. So first I'm taking up the outline. If I talk about outline, there are three steps in blood clotting. This is the first step. Please read the first step. Let me explain it to you. See, beta, when we talk about blood clotting, I told you it's a very, very complicating process. We talk about some things which are known as factors. Okay. We have 13 numerals and 12 factors because later factor 6 was found to be a part of another factor. Earlier, it was believed that there are 13 factors which are involved, but now it is concluded there are only 12 factors which are involved. Okay. 13 numerals we had earlier, but the factor number 6 was found to be a part of another factor. So that factor 6 was removed. So in general, just remember there are mainly 12 factors which are involved in the blood coagulation. Some factors will play a role in some steps, some in other steps. Though you don't have to go into so much of details in class 11th, it is not there in your book also. Little bit we'll try and cover. What is the first step that you have read, beta? First step in blood clotting.
Formation of prothrombin activator.
Yes. The first step is formation of prothrombin activator. If you can see, it is a multi-step process. So does it take place in one step?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
It will not take place in one step. I'm giving you the three outline steps. Later we'll go into detail. Let's listen very quickly. First step is formation of prothrombin activator. This is a multi-step process and it takes place by two pathways, extrinsic and intrinsic. Okay. What are the two pathways by which it takes place?
Extrinsic and
Extrinsic
intrinsic.
and intrinsic.
I'll be telling you about this a little later when I'll go to details. Just remember first, what is the first step in blood clotting?
Formation of
Formation
prothrombin
of prothrombin
activator.
activator.
Yes, it is formation of prothrombin activator and it is which kind of a process?
Multi-step.
Multi-step process. It takes place by how many pathways?
Two pathways.
Two pathways.
Two
Two pathways.
pathways,
What are the two pathways? What are the two pathways?
intrinsic and extrinsic.
Extrinsic and
Intrinsic.
intrinsic.
Yes. Whether it is the extrinsic pathway or it is the intrinsic pathway, in both cases, the product is the same beta. The same thing is formed and that is prothrombin activator. That is why this step is known as the heading I have put as formation of prothrombin activator. Whether it is multi-step extrinsic or multi-step intrinsic, the final product is always the same. What is the final product that we'll get after this step?
Prothrombin activator.
Prothrombin activator.
Prothrombin activator. I'm just giving you a very short review. I am trying to write a general equation for the first step. This is when you make your notes, this is general equation. Your injured tissue. Supposing there's an injured tissue or an injured platelet, I put an upon slash. It could be injured tissue upon injured platelet means slash. It could be a tissue which is injured or it could be a platelet which is injured. Then some multi-step reactions will take place. And the final product you will get is what? What are you getting as a final product after the first step?
Prothrombin activator.
Prothrombin activator.
Activator. So in short, when we represent the first step in blood clotting as an equation for our own memory, we will write it injured tissue slash injured platelets. It could be a tissue which is injured or it could be a platelet which is injured. Multi-step reactions will take place. They could be extrinsic, they could be intrinsic. We'll go to it later. But multi-step reactions will take place. And after reactions, what is the product which is formed, beta?
Prothrombin activator.
Prothrombin activator.
Now this you remember cascade? If you remember cascade, how many of you remember? I had done this term with you earlier. Cascade, what was cascade?
Which is something which
Stair like.
flows.
One followed by the other. We had done cascade reactions where one follows the other. Here also it is going to be the same thing. The product which is formed in the first step is going to help us in the second step. So many times I've asked, last time again I'm asking, what was the product which was formed in the first step?
Prothrombin activator.
Prothrombin activator.
So your second step is prothrombin, conversion of prothrombin to thrombin. What is the second step? Conversion of prothrombin to thrombin. And who is going to help this? It is the prothrombin activator. The prothrombin activator will convert prothrombin to what? It will convert it to thrombin. So for the conversion of prothrombin to thrombin, two things are required. One is your activator, which was made in the first step, that is your prothrombin activator. And second is the presence of calcium ions. Okay. So what is the second step if I ask you? It is prothrombin conversion to thrombin. Tell me what is the second step? What changes to what?
Conversion of prothrombin to
Prothrombin to
thrombin.
thrombin.
Yes. And what are the two things which are required?
Calcium ions and prothrombin
Activator, that's
activator.
prothrombin activator and calcium ions.
Where did we get the prothrombin activator from?
From first step.
Yes, from the first step. If you remember the first step, the product was prothrombin activator. So it is this prothrombin activator which will convert prothrombin to thrombin. So until and unless we have the first step, we will not get prothrombin activator. If we will not get prothrombin activator, the prothrombin will not convert into thrombin. So the first step, children, was formation of prothrombin activator. Second is conversion of prothrombin to thrombin. Now let's come to the third and the final step here. This is just an outline. I'll be going into details after this. Conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin. What conversion is taking place in the third step?
Fibrinogen to fibrin.
Fibrinogen to fibrin. And what conversion was taking place in the second step?
Prothrombin to thrombin.
Yes. Beta, the product of the first reaction was used in the second reaction. And the product of the second reaction will be used in the third reaction. What was the product of the second reaction?
Thrombin.
Bin.
Yes, thrombin. So beta, like we needed this prothrombin activator to convert prothrombin to thrombin, similarly this fibrinogen to fibrin will be converted in the presence of this product, that is your thrombin. Let us learn a bit about fibrinogen and fibrin. Fibrinogen is a soluble protein. Fibrinogen is which kind of a protein?
Soluble protein.
Soluble protein.
Soluble protein. So this thrombin will convert fibrinogen into fibrin monomers, which is insoluble. Fibrin is insoluble and fibrinogen is soluble. So what is thrombin basically doing? It is converting this soluble protein, fibrinogen, into an insoluble form. And that insoluble form is what we call as fibrin. But remember, in the first step, you will get monomers. Monomers, you know, na? Single units. Then polymerization of these single units will take place of fibrin single units, and you will get a long thread of fibrin, which is known as a polymer, fibrin polymer, or you simply call it as a fibrin thread. Also to keep in mind one more thing, beta, that this fibrinogen is soluble and this fibrin thread is insoluble. So the main thing that we are doing is we are converting a soluble protein into an insoluble protein in the third step. So if I have to represent my third step in an equation, I will represent like this. Soluble protein to insoluble protein with the help of whose presence is needed over here?
Thrombin.
Thrombin.
And calcium molecule.
And thrombin came from, bit a third step. Thrombin came from which
Second
step?
step.
Second
Second
step.
So let us very quickly revise the 3 steps. Then we'll go into a little detail about this. What was the first step in blood clotting?
Formation of prothrombin activator.
It takes place by 2 pathways. What are the 2 pathways?
Extrinsic and intrinsic.
Extrinsic and intrinsic.
Whether it follows the extrinsic pathway or it follows the intrinsic pathway, in both the cases, the final product is what?
Prothrombin
Prothrombin activator.
Yes, prothrombin activator. It's a cascade reaction. So this product will continue. It will go into the next step. So if I write it in equation when you're preparing your notes, this will be a simple equation. Injured tissue / injured platelets, multi-step reactions, prothrombin activator. What was the second step? Let me not show it to you. Let me see how much you remember.
Prothrombin to
Conversion of prothrombin to thrombin in the presence of calcium ions and prothrombin activator.
Yes. So who's going to help in this process? 2 things will be needed. One is what?
calcium
Prothrombin
ions.
activator and calcium ions.
Prothrombin activator and calcium ions. So your prothrombin is converted to thrombin with the help of this activator. In the third step, what was changing into what?
Fibrinogen to fibrin in
Fibrinogen
the
to
presence
fibrin.
of thrombin.
And the product of the second reaction will help us here. What was the product of the second reaction?
Thrombin.
Thrombin.
Fibrinogen is which kind of a protein?
Soluble
Soluble.
protein.
Protein.
Soluble protein. So from fibrinogen, in the first step, fibrin monomers will be produced, single unit fibrin units. And then which process will take place?
Polymerization.
Polymerization. And finally, what you'll get is a fibrin thread. So fibrinogen is soluble or insoluble?
Insoluble.
Soluble.
Fibrinogen, beta.
Soluble.
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 Yes. Fibrinogen is soluble and fibrin threads are
Insoluble.
Insoluble.
insoluble. So we are done with these three steps. Once at the end, when I revise, I'll take up these things again with you. Let me proceed further. I just tried to show with the help of a rough diagram to you how it's going to help you. See, beta, this is what happens. This is what this is your damaged cell. Okay, this big structure which I've drawn. What is it? This is your damaged cell. This entire thing. These are your fibrin threads. Can you see this network which is made over here? This mesh kind of a structure. This one. Haphazard lines.
Yes, ma'am.
These are which threads, beta?
Fibrin thread.
Fibrin.
Now, this is a mesh kind of a thing. In Hindi, what we call as jali. Small, small holes are there. Now, all your damaged cells, RBCs, WBCs, platelets, whatever is damaged, they get stuck in this mesh. Okay? You can think about a tea siever. You know a sieve? When you sieve your tea after tea is prepared, you've seen sieve,
Yes,
na?
ma'am.
Chai chante. So that sieve, channi, what you call, that is your sieve. So what happens, beta? Tea leaves get stuck in that small holes of the sieve or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Just imagine that. So this is your damaged cell. What are these threads actually? This mesh is made by what? This is made by what threads?
Fibrin thread.
Fibrin threads. If you remember those insoluble threads which were made from fibrinogen, what did we call them as? The long units, polymer threads, they were known as fibrins. So these are your fibrin threads. And like I told you, tea leaves, they get stuck in the holes of the sieve. Similarly, these damaged RBC, WBCs, platelets, they get stuck over here. So you get a big mass, you get a good mass of tea leaves when you filter or you sieve 2-3 cups of tea. You get a big amount of tea leaves, yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Does it pass with the tea or it remains in the sieve?
It remains.
It remains in the sieve. Exactly same over here. These damaged cells, they will get stuck in these holes between the threads. And this is what we call as a clot. What is this called as a clot? Blood clot, what you say. In biology, clot is known as thrombose. What is it called? Thrombose.
Thrombose.
Okay, everybody, what is it called? Thrombose. This is just to visualize little bit कि कैसे होता होगा. What is this big thing? What is this big structure that I've drawn over here? Tell me.
Damaged cell.
This is your damaged cell. And these threads, which are forming a mesh or a network, what are these threads?
Fibrin threads.
Fibrin.
What is getting stuck in the fibrin threads? Your damaged cells, whether they are RBCs or WBCs, whatever, and then they form a clot. What is the other name for clot?
Thrombose.
Thrombose.
Thrombose. Fibrin threads were made from
Fibrinogen.
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 This was which step? This was which step of blood clotting?
Third
Third
step.
step.
Good step. So fibrin threads were made from fibrinogen in the presence of
Thrombin.
Thrombin.
thrombin was made in which step of blood clotting?
Second step.
Second step.
Second step.
What had converted to thrombin?
Prothrombin.
Prothrombin.
So there was something which was needed to convert prothrombin to thrombin. What was that?
Prothrombin
Calcium ions
activator.
in prothrombin activator.
And prothrombin activator was produced in which step?
First
First
step.
is
First step.
First step.
So that means you're confident about the 3 steps. Now you'll be able to understand the detail of what I'm saying. See, beta, the first step will remain the same. I'm going to details a little now. First step will remain the same means the same thing will be produced which was produced there. What was the thing which was produced in the first step?
prothrombin
Thrombin
activator.
Prothrombin activator. I told you there are 2 pathways. Whether we go for extrinsic or we go for intrinsic, final product to wahi banega, that is prothrombin activator. Now understand extrinsic and intrinsic beta. If there is an injury from outside, okay, if there is an injury from outside, then what will happen? We are going to start with the extrinsic pathway. This is your injured tissue. Injured tissue, but the injury is from where? Injury is from outside. Then this injured tissue will release a substance which is called tissue thromboplastin. What is it called?
Tissue
Tissue
thromboplastin.
thromboplastin.
And then certain factors will be there. There's one factor 7, then calcium ions will also be there. And then this tissue thromboplastin will convert into prothrombin activator. What will you get here? You will get a prothrombin activator. And as soon as you get a prothrombin activator, the same steps will start. Step 2, step 3 will continue. So if I ask you about the extrinsic pathway of blood clotting, we are going to start from where? We are going to start from here. Injured tissue. And the injury is from where?
Outside.
Outside.
Children speak out, just 2-3 people speaking. Okay, injuries from outside. So your injured tissue is going to release a substance. What is the name of the substance?
Tissue thromboplastin.
Tissue thromboplastin.
And in the presence of factor 7 and calcium ions, it will release what we were to get in the first step. What was the first step with product?
Prothrombin activator.
Prothrombin activator.
Then prothrombin activator will convert. What will it happen? What will happen in the step 2?
It will convert prothrombin to thrombin.
Very good. And after that, we'll have the third step. What will thrombin do?
It will help in converting fibrinogen to fibrin.
Yes, first to fibrin monomers and then to fibrin threads. So this after this step, the entire process remains the same. After your prothrombin activator is made, because I told you whether extrinsic or intrinsic, the final product is this only. And again, the steps are going to be the same. Let's see what happens in intrinsic. When blood comes in contact with the collagen of blood vessels, here the blood is already flowing inside the body. And now this blood is coming in contact with the collagen of blood vessels. When I say blood vessels, children, I mean arteries and veins. Okay? So the blood is coming in contact with the collagen of blood vessels. When I say blood vessels, what do I mean? Arteries
Arteries and veins.
and how many layers do they have? Arteries and veins on the surface? How many layers? Arteries, veins? Anybody knows?
Approximate 4.
3 layers.
Excellent. It is 3 layers. Very good. Very good. Very good. Collagen is found in which layer? Any idea? See, beta, collagen is what? It's a protein which is found in the human body. Okay? Basically, remember about collagen that it's a protein which gives the strength and structure to the body. See, blood vessels, they have 3 layers. Just now, she has also told you. The outermost layer has collagen fibers. Which layer has collagen fibers?
Outermost layer.
Outermost.
The outermost layer of blood vessels is called tunica externa. What is it called?
Tunica externa.
External.
So, collagen fiber is present in which layer?
Outermost.
Tunica externa.
Outermost layer.
Yes, what is the name?
Tunica
Tunica externa.
Tunica externa, sometimes it is also known as tunica adventitia. Sometimes we call it. Then tunica media. Tunica media must be which layer? You can easily guess.
Middle.
Middle layer.
Medium.
It must be the middle layer. And then we'll have an inner layer also. We can guess the name of the inner layer.
Tunica intermedia.
Tunica intima.
Tunica internia. Very good. So tunica externa we have. Let's not go to that. Just remember that collagen fiber is present where? In the outermost layer. See, I've tried to draw. This is your blood vessel roughly. This is the outer layer. What is the outer layer called as tunica externa? Now what happens over here? See beta, listen to this. Blood comes in contact with the collagen of blood vessels. Here you have blood. Supposing there is an injury and the blood inside has come in contact with whom? It has come in contact with the collagen. And collagen is present where? It is present in the outer layer of the blood vessels. So if there is a damage, blood comes in contact with the collagen fiber. So this pathway will trigger. When will this happen? Something which is inside comes in contact with the collagen. What is that something inside? It is blood. What is coming in contact with the collagen?
Blood.
Blood.
Blood. Blood is something inside or something which is coming from outside?
Inside.
Inside.
Inside. So it was something inside which is coming in contact with collagen. So we call it as what? We call it as intrinsic. Why is this pathway called as intrinsic clear? That was external injury. The first part I told you, we start from which kind of an injury? External injury. But here the factor is that it is the blood which is coming in contact with the collagen fibers, and blood is something which flows inside. And that is the reason that this pathway is known as which pathway? It is known as the intrinsic pathway. Let's come to intrinsic pathway now. You have certain factors. First, factor 12 comes into role. Inactive factor 12 to active factor 12. This converts to inactive factor 11 to active factor 11, then inactive 9 to active 9. You don't need to learn so much. Just remember that inactive factors are converted to active factors. In which kind of a pathway we are talking about? We are talking about intrinsic pathway. Just remember that fourth factor is very important. Whenever I say fourth factor, I mean calcium ions. Is it okay, children? Fourth factor is what? Calcium ions.
Calcium ions.
Just this is what you need to remember. Only one factor is important for you. Fourth factor is very important here. The presence of fourth factor is very important. And some more factors which convert inactive to active in this state are inactive factor 12 to active factor 12, inactive 11 to active 11, inactive 9 to active 9, inactive 10 to active 9, and then finally the last one is inactive fifth factor to active fifth factor. So when this fifth factor becomes active, prothrombin activator is produced. What is produced again is what product?
Prothrombin activator.
You simply learn it in such a way that it is called intrinsic because it is the blood which comes in contact with the collagen, and collagen was present in the outermost layer. How many factors are involved? Just learn this. 12, 11, 9, 10, 5. Learn in this sequence. This is of course very important. We'll add on later. 12, 11, 9, or you can learn in sequence. 12, 11. बेटा एक्चुअली होता ये है कि 9 के बाद 10 आता है and 10 के बाद 5. That is why I've written in this sequence. So let's learn it. 12, 11, 12, 11, 10, 9 and there's one more factor which is always needed, that is factor 4. When I say factor 4, I mean what?
Calcium ions.
Calcium ions.
Calcium ions.
The final product is again the same. What? Prothrombin activator. And second step would be the same again. Prothrombin activator will convert prothrombin to what? Thrombin. I told you earlier also that calcium ions will be required. That means factor 4 will be required over here. So in the first step when we started, what was the first step in blood clotting, children? What was the first step in blood clotting? When we did in the beginning in general, this was the first step. What was the first step?
Prothrombin activators were formed.
Prothrombin activator.
And they were formed by how many pathways?
Extrinsic and
pathways.
intrinsic.
Whether it is extrinsic or it is intrinsic, what was the product that you were getting?
Prothrombin activator.
Prothrombin activator.
So when I talk about extrinsic pathway, then the injury is from where?
Outside.
Outside.
Injury is from outside. So the injured tissue will release a substance. What is that substance called?
Thromboplastin.
Tissue thromboplastin.
Tissue thromboplastin.
In the presence of factor 4 and factor 7, what is produced is prothrombin activator. Then prothrombin activator will convert prothrombin to
Thrombin.
thrombin. And thrombin will convert fibrinogen into
Fibrin.
Fibrin.
fibers. So you'll get these kind of fibers, and then what will be formed is clot. Let's move on to intrinsic one. What is happening in intrinsic? This happens when blood comes in contact with the collagen of blood vessels. When we say blood vessels, we mean arteries and veins. They have 3 layers. Collagen fibers are found in which layer, beta? The
Outermost layer.
outermost layer. What is it called?
Tunica externa.
Tunica externa. And then it will start, the same process is going to start in intrinsic also. What will happen? As soon as blood comes in contact with collagen, inactive factor 12 converts to active factor 12, which leads again a cascade kind of a reaction, inactive 11 to active 11, inactive 9 to active 9. Then basically you have the presence of factor 4 always needed, that is calcium ions, inactive 10 to active 10, then inactive fifth factor to active fifth factor, and in the last what is produced is the prothrombin activator. The rest beta, the step 2 and step 3 will remain the same. I hope step 2 and step 3 you've been able to learn now. What was produced in step 2?
Thrombin.
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 Yes. So should we move on to the third? No, let me see this. Second, intrinsic and extrinsic, you're okay with everybody? Can I move on to the next step now?
Yes, ma'am.
This
Yes,
is
ma'am.
conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin. And who was helping this, if you remember?
Thrombin.
Thrombin.
We know that this is soluble, fibrinogen is soluble in plasma. When I started, I told you fibrinogen is soluble. So this is soluble in plasma. This will convert into an insoluble protein. And what was the name of that insoluble protein?
Fibrin.
Fibrin.
Fibrin. First, mono units will be formed. Then polymerization will take place. You'll get long fibrin threads. Factor 13 is required over here for this step. And then the same thing, beta, these fibrin threads are there. These are your damaged cells which collect over here on this mesh. They are known as clot. Or what is the other name I had told you?
Thrombose.
Thrombose.
There is one more name which you will come across in books for a clot, that is coagulum. What is the word we use?
Coagulum.
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 Yes. So we can have 3 names. The common name is clot. Then we have thrombose. And what is the other name, third name that we have for clot?
Coagulum.
Coagulum.
And this mechanism, the entire mechanism is again known as cascade mechanism. What is this mechanism known as?
Cascade
Cascade.
mechanism.
Because if you see, one follows the other. How one follows the other, children? If the product is not produced in the first step, if we did not have a prothrombin activator, then what would not have happened? Prothrombin would not have converted to thrombin. If thrombin was not formed, then fibrinogen would not convert into fibrin fibers. And if we don't have fibrin fibers, which are the most important ones for blood clotting, we will not have the entire process of blood clotting. Let me take up with you once again. There are 3 main steps in blood clotting. What is the first step, beta?
Formation of prothrombin activator.
Yes, prothrombin activator. And this is a multi-step process. It takes place by how many pathways?
2.
2 pathways,
Two
extrinsic
pathways.
and intrinsic.
Extrinsic and intrinsic. Beta, others are not speaking. Please speak out. Whether it is extrinsic or intrinsic, which is the final product?
Prothrombin activator.
Prothrombin activator.
Prothrombin activator.
Now this prothrombin activator, so this is my equation. Injured tissue / injured platelets. If this is going to trigger this reaction. The reaction will only start if a tissue or a platelet is injured. Okay, if it is a tissue which is injured, outer one, of course it's going to be extrinsic. If it's a platelet, inner blood the part, then it is going to be intrinsic. So either a tissue or a platelet, but both the cases, whether extrinsic or intrinsic, you'll get prothrombin. Prothrombin activator, it will convert prothrombin to thrombin, and what is essential over here is two
Calcium
things are
ions.
Calcium ions.
which
Prothrombin
factor?
activator.
Which factor are calcium ions?
Factor 4.
Factor 4.
Fact- And of course, you need this prothrombin activator, which you will get from the first step. So see how cascade is going on. Now in the second step, the final product that you got was thrombin. Again, we need this thrombin to convert fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is soluble or insoluble?
Insoluble.
Soluble.
Soluble.
It's soluble.
Fibrinogen is soluble. So in the presence of thrombin, it will convert into insoluble units, which are known as fibrin monomers. What will you call them as?
Fibrin
Fibrin
monomers.
monomers.
They will undergo polymerization and you will get long threads of fibrin or polymers of fibrin, which are soluble or insoluble.
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 So basically, you're converting a soluble protein into insoluble protein or insoluble to soluble.
Soluble
to
to
insoluble.
insoluble.
This is which step? Third step. Now tell me, what is this thing, this long one, this structure that I've drawn? What is this?
Damaged cell.
Damaged or
Damaged
injured cell.
This is a damaged
Damaged
cell.
or injured
And
cell.
this network that you can see, these threads or network, what is this?
Fibrin
Fibrin
threads.
threads.
Fibrin thread network.
If you remember, all of you, fibrin threads were prepared in which step of blood clotting?
Third
step.
step.
Third.
Step. So what has got stuck in these? What are these dark shaded ones? What has got stuck in these fibers?
Damaged cells.
Yes, the damaged cells. And then these damaged cells are what we call as clot. Give me two more names of clot.
Thrombose and
Thrombose.
coagulum.
Thrombose.
Coagulum.
Very good. Thrombose and coagulum. Now, here we come to the details. The first step remains the same. What is going to be produced is prothrombin activator. If it is extrinsic, it means injury from outside. If there's an injury from outside and your tissue is getting injured, then this tissue will release a substance. What's the name of the substance?
Tissue thromboplastin.
Tissue thromboplastin. Which two factors will be needed?